How's it hanging in the Big Apple?
It's hanging pretty good. It's cooling off. It's pumpkin season over here, and ironically enough, I'm going pumpkin picking in a couple weeks here. Actually next weekend. Typical Long Island activity, but it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, do you have a strategy for pumpkin picking? Like, do you knock on it? What's your style? Walk us through the process.
Does it look orange? Check. Is it big enough? Check.
Right here.
The Dallas Cowboys now without Dak in a 52-point over/under. We've got Arizona slightly favored by 2.5 going on the road here. But before we jump into this matchup, if you're new to our channel, please make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, because we'd like to continue to put out content for you each and every day on the week and try and help you win your matchup. And we're going to get into this Monday night matchup, Summy, and we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals first. And I think we kind of know that we're rolling with Kyler Murray. We're rolling with DeAndre Hopkins. We've seen what they've done together. But just give us a little bit of taste of what that's looked like in this first year of that marriage.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I for one, I'm gonna eat crow. I'm gonna tell you right now that I had DeAndre Hopkins slotted as a lot lower than he's currently ranked right now in terms of fantasy production. I didn't think
I was with you there, brother.
Yeah, I mean, like the target market share just seems to follow him around no matter where he goes, and that kind of shows that market share is really attributed to wide receiver skill, right? Like if you can get open, you're going to get the targets, especially if you have a competent quarterback back there. And I think that's what's happened here. DeAndre Hopkins has shown that he's an elite receiver, and that continues to be the case. So no matter what, you're starting both of these options, DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's the QB5 overall. And again, this matchup especially, I mean, it's the fastest paced matchup this week against the number 1 ranked offense in neutral situations versus the number 2 ranked offenses in neutral pace situations. So I really like this spot.
All right, so we know we're going to start DeAndre Hopkins. We like Kyler Murray. He continues to do great things. But what about Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, Andy Isabella, the guys behind Hopkins? Because, look, Dallas loves to just hemorrhage points to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, it's one of their favorite pastimes, it seems like. But despite Christian Kirk's injury, I mean, he leads the team in air yard market share with 33%. So he's not getting the higher percentage throws; he's getting the lower percentage plays deeper down the field. So you're gonna have to like kind of ride his roller coaster with him if you decide to start him. He's gonna have weeks where he pops, which potentially could be this week. And he's gonna have weeks where he disappoints as well. So stick with Christian Kirk. I think, we've seen after he came back from injury, his snap share has been increasing. His target market share has been increasing each week. So as long as Larry Fitzgerald is still in the fold here, which I don't understand why the heck this guy's still playing, like let Andy Isabella play, let Christian Kirk get some more playing time. Like this team needs to look to the future. I think if Larry's on the field, it definitely limits the market share for Christian Kirk, but he's still a startable like wide receiver 3 flex option for me.
We were talking about Philip Lindsay being one of my favorites to, have gone picked up in the last week or so, week and a half, and stashed because of what's going to, hopefully happen when they're healthy.
Yep.
Christian Kirk's probably my second favorite, if not 1B, and that's because you look at this schedule, Seattle, Miami, Buffalo, and then Seattle again after playing Dallas on Monday night. I mean, those are some matchups you should capitalize on at the wide receiver position for fantasy.
Absolutely. And even despite like the rest of the season outlook versus past defenses, it's 25th. So it's not the best, but still they're going to be in games where, they're going to have to throw the ball early and often, Seattle, Rams, Philly, San Francisco, Rams again, like you name it, Buffalo. So you're going
to have to get the ball moving.
Exactly.
Well, somebody who hasn't really moved the ball too well is Kenyon Drake. He is a, FF Twitter, everybody loves to be all over him on FF Twitter here. And we've got a matchup that should be exploitable, but this is the guy who couldn't really exploit a Detroit matchup, who couldn't really or Carolina. He was able to get in the end zone last week against the Jets and kind of spike his week, but Chase Edmonds also got in the end zone. Chase Edmonds has also been effective through the passing game.
Yep.
So I need you to settle the debate here, or at least give us a point in direction on what to do with Kenyon Drake, with Chase Edmonds, and this whole Arizona debacle in the backfield here.
Sell Kenyon Drake for whatever he's going for right now. If you can package someone with Kenyon Drake, if his value is really low in your league mate's eyes, like send him to an RB needy team. Tell him, hey, you're going to get 20 touches every week. You never know. He could start going off. Like anyone that needs a running back is not going to say no to that if you make it juicy enough for them. So I would definitely sell high, get rid of him. Just wipe your hands clean. Try to get another RB option if you can. But I get it. Most people can't do that. And in that case, you're just kind of stuck with him. Like you have to ride him out, and it just is what it is. I like Chase Edmonds more rest of season for sure.
And then you're starting both in this matchup, right? High over under. They should attack Dallas.
I mean, listen, from like a volume standpoint, I'm a lot more confident, of course, in Kenyon Drake. But when it comes to like just overall production, we've seen Chase Edmonds clearly be the most efficient back here. And just to kind of speak to the defense that they're going up against in Dallas, their tackles, DJ Humphries and Kelvin Beachum, they've been playing pretty well, especially in run blocking and sealing the edge on run plays. So if you look at this, they've actually averaged 7.1 and 8.6 yards per carry when running wide around the tackles or behind the tackles. And 15 out of their 21 explosive run plays have actually come from those spots. So I like this spot against Dallas, for both these guys, but it's up to Kenyon Drake to really capitalize on that situation and not let Chase Edmonds kind of outshine him every week. And I think that's what's going to happen again this week.
Heavily invested in Chase Edmonds across a lot of leagues.
You're smart, man.
Mostly because of you and how smart you are, and you tell me to do these things. So I'm really excited to see if Chase can finally take over this backfield. On the other side of the ball, the final team we're going to talk about here is the Dallas Cowboys, and really, Summy, thoughts and prayers up to Dak Prescott, who had a horrific injury, much like a bad car wreck. I could not stop watching that video. It was really bad. It was so bad. You said the New York Giants defender pointing down as soon as he tackled him, come check this out. This isn't
That was Logan
good.
Ryan. Yeah, I remember seeing that. And Logan Ryan was just picked up 2 weeks ago from the Giants because their corner got arrested or whatever it was. I think 3 weeks ago. So it's just unfortunate, It's just wrong place, wrong time. Yeah,
I mean, there wasn't a dirty play, even though Dallas has been given a couple dirty plays this year. That was definitely not. But anyways, we've got to talk fantasy here, Summy, and a lot of people just are kind of throwing in the towel on this Dallas offense, and I don't know if I get it. Andy Dalton was a startable quarterback, not only in real football, but in fantasy football at times. And he is now going to play with probably the most talented roster he ever has as far as pass catchers and running back. I think that Andy Dalton, actually, I'm excited about him. If you were the Dak owner, the Dak GM, I advised a lot of people on Whisper Nation to pick Andy Dalton up because I think he can get there for them.
So Andy Dalton, I mean, like I said, he's not going to be able to provide Dak level of production from a quarterback standpoint, but as far as his pass catchers go, I think, it could definitely be serviceable. I think the offensive, and just like the system in general, it's a fast-paced offense, no huddle a lot. I think Andy Dalton, he's competent enough. He's a veteran. He's able to learn the playbook. He doesn't need a full season to kind of, get in the swing of things. So I think he'll step in and be a plug-and-play option for this offense. And if you saw Michael Gallup, he had a pretty good rapport with him as well towards the end of last game. That one deep catch on the right sideline. I mean, he had two catches actually down the right sideline, and they both look really pretty. So I'm excited to see what happens here, but I'm not expecting, a top 5 finish week in and week out from Dalton or anything like that. He's a streaming option for me at best. And I think I do downgrade Amari Cooper and Ceedee Lamb and Michael Gallup just a hair, but it's nothing to, have my hair on fire about.
We've seen Amari Cooper's snap share kind of go down, too, in the last few weeks, so it's something to keep an eye on, like you said there. And I actually bought a few shares of Michael Gallup because I think that there is a world where Andy Dalton actually favors Michael Gallup maybe in that 50-50 ball style of play more than Amari Cooper was favored by Dak. But we'll just have to wait and see. Anything particular in this matchup? You're starting Cooper. I think you're still starting Ceedee Lamb, correct? But what about Gallup? How do you feel about that one in this game with the Dalton connection still under a microscope?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was going to say with Andy Dalton, he spent his career with a really bad O-line, and he's coming to Dallas who, had a really good O-line, but because of injuries now, they don't have a really good O-line. They have middle of the road at best. And one thing that really helps is Chandler Jones was actually just put on IR, the top pressure from Arizona. And I think Gallup could potentially see a pretty big game this week. I mean, he's still only seeing 12.4% market share, which is nothing to, write home about. And I don't see that increasing with Ceedee and Cooper still in the mix. But this week against Drake Kirkpatrick, he's allowed the most yards per route run amongst all Arizona cornerbacks, and he's allowed the highest catch percentage as well. And he's being targeted at a higher rate than Byron Murphy or Patrick Peterson. So I do like Michael Gallup here, especially if that connection that we saw between him and Dalton, continues on to this week. It's going to be exciting. But, man, I want to talk about Ceedee Lamb here. I mean, he's coming up to be mid to high-end wide receiver 2 every single week. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. Oh, it's the breakout is 100% real. People weren't sure if it was going to work there because of, so many mouths to feed, and people weren't taking into account, I think, how much of the delta of targets was gone with Randall Cobb and with Jason Witten here. And so that being said, like Ceedee Lamb came in and he's running so much of his routes in the slot. I mean, he's getting just so open because who can handle, an OBJ, DeAndre Hopkins light in the slot right now,
Yeah, and, it's showing in his numbers, 18.2% target market share. We kind of spoke to that earlier, where it's like it's wide receiver talent that leads to getting open, which leads to getting targets. So that's definitely all on CD. He's getting 24% of the air yards here. And get this, Travi, he's actually seen the least air yards amongst all three of these receivers. He only has 394. Amari Cooper and Gallup have over 400. But Ceedee Lamb actually is leading in yards. So that tells you something, right? Like yards after catch, he's shown contested catch ability, and overall just a stud.
So I think he's going to be like a souped-up version of Tyler Boyd for Andy Dalton, and I think that's somebody you're going to want to have. My question is, will Andy Dalton be able to sustain all three options, Amari Cooper, CD, and Gallup? Because he's had spurts in his past in Cincinnati, a much worse Cincinnati team, of having an Eifert be viable, having A.J. Green be viable, having Tyler Boyd be viable, and at times all of them together. But do you think that can happen for Dalton and for these guys? And do you think it's either Gallup or Dalton Schultz here?
Well, that wasn't really happening with Dak either, right? You had Gallup having down weeks, right? Dalton Schultz was getting a lot of targets. So
spiked weeks for Dalton Schultz, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't expect them to all be relevant every week. And, one guy or two guys are definitely going to have to be the odd man out every week. But I do think CD is probably the most consistent that we can rely on. Amari Cooper is up there as well. And I think behind that, Gallup, I mean, I get it. Even with the chemistry there, Gallup could have big splash plays, but I just don't think his volume is going to be there to provide a stable floor on a weekly basis. So Cooper and CD are the safest receiving options here. And it's just kind of a wait-and-see situation with how things break out with Dalton Schultz.
I just want to ask, obviously we're starting Ezekiel Elliott. We know that. And I think I wanted to just ask you if you think with Andy Dalton in, if that's going to actually help Zeke or hurt Zeke more than Dak in the lineup.
That's a good question. I think, ultimately it does hurt just because Dak is more of a vertical threat. He's more of a threat to be mobile. He's a dual threat quarterback for a reason. So I think it definitely does hurt Zeke, especially with his O-line not being healthy and not being as good as it has been years past. So slight downtick on Zeke, but I mean, Zeke is Zeke. He's going to get a ton no matter what. I mean, he's played without Dak before and he's going to continue to do it this year as well. And I think he'll be fine.
Andy Dalton or Ryan Fitzpatrick this week as a streamer?
Give me Ryan Fitzpatrick.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Summy, thank you very much. Whisper Nation, if you've got any more start-sit questions, make sure you like and comment below and let us know what your questions are. We'll try to answer those. As always, I'm Big Travi. That is Summy over there. You can find him on Twitter at SummyTFW. And for Summy and for everyone else, we are the Fantasy Whisperers, and we're out. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.